Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. My guest today is one of the newer pros on the scene. He's actually been around for a couple of years, but I've been checking this guy's videos out on the Gasp official page. Those are all directed by Nick Del Toro. And I think he's going to make a huge impact this year, much improved over last time I saw him. Please welcome from Texas, Joe Mackey. How are you, Joe?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good. Now,
Awesome.
first question, I remember you vaguely from last year's New York Pro.
Yep.
You were 11th place, not bad, not
Right.
awesome, but geez, you still beat a bunch of people.
For
But
sure.
what I remember, and I think in my play-by-play, the first thing I said was crazy arms on this guy. That
Right.
was like the first. You have a great balanced physique for sure, but
Yep.
man, those arms. So here's the question you must get every day:
Right.
How big are your arms? What have they been up to in the off season?
That's crazy because I just measured my arms last night, and we're actually 6 weeks out from the show right now. So of course they are bigger than off season,
Yeah.
but right now my arms measured at 22 and a half right now.
Wow.
That was cold. All season, I'm sure I would say probably an inch on top of it, so probably 23 and a half for sure in all season. So
And that's cold. That's no pump.
that's no pump. Yeah. So that was last night. I just got the measuring tape out, put them around, and I was just curious. And I didn't even know we were going to talk about this, but it's just funny you said because, yeah, I just measured them. And it's actually funny. My left arm, I'm right dominant, I'm right handed, but my left arm is actually bigger than my right arm. So my left arm is actually 22 and a half, and my right arm is actually right around 20. So it's actually about half an inch smaller where my right arm is.
That's not as uncommon. That's how my arms, which are much smaller, but that's as my theory on that. And someone's going to jump down my throat if it's ridiculous.
Yep.
I think because we're right-handed, I think the
Right.
left arm has to work harder to do everything.
For sure.
So
Right.
maybe it does
I
get
don't
more
know why that
stressed.
is. I mean, you can. I would argue someone up and down that my right arm was bigger than my left, but yeah, after doing it last night, I was like, man, that's crazy. So that was actually the first time me saying that myself as well.
So I've been looking at your IG,
Mm-hmm.
and which is, geez, now I should have.
Yep.
It's what is your IG? It's kind of odd. It's not
It's
just Joe Mackey IFBB Pro. It's what?
J Mackey. Man, it's crazy. Yeah, J Mackey IFBB Pro. Uh, I had to look at it myself. So yeah,
Hey, you got to change that. Make it easier for people to
yeah,
find you.
for sure. I want to say, yeah. Usually, someone will ask my IG. I was like, just give me your phone, and
Yeah.
I'll just type my name in and then look it up myself. But I want to say, yeah, it's J Mackey. You're gonna have me look at it now, but I want to say it's J Mackey IPP Pro for sure.
I should have written it down.
You're right.
So I'm curious. You look like you've improved quite a bit since last year.
Yep.
Body weight wise, what were you last year when you competed at New York Pro? What do you
Mm-hmm.
think you might be at the Tampa Pro?
So I think I stepped on stage last year at New York Pro around. I know I was in the 250s because I tend to, my body. I would say it can go up and down very quickly, and going down is, of course, you know, depending on where we are with everything, it's not always a great thing.
Yeah.
But even with the food and nutrition, because I work with my coach Dominic Cardone. He's originally from New York.
Yeah.
Now he's in Vegas now. So we've actually, been learning a lot about my body over the last couple of years. We've been working together. So last year at New York Pro, I want to say I was like 257, 258 on stage.
Hmm.
Right now, my weight is sitting around past it. It's around 274, 273, 274. So we're definitely
That's like a fasted morning weight.
that's the past morning weight, right?
So let's say 280 by 9 o'clock at night. Easy.
No, I wish, but it's even with the because we've been going up and down with the food, and we've basically been sending pictures just about every 2 days now. So we've sometimes been changing food up, either higher or lower, just about every 2 or 3 days. And even on a high day, my weight, I mean, we can go from a meal having 400 grams of rice for 2 days straight, and my weight won't budge.
Hmm.
And then we can drop it back down to 250,
Yeah.
and my weight will go down a pound or two, of course. So even with the increased food, we won't see a huge drastic change as far as the weight going up. But of course, I can't tell the difference as far as waking up and feeling full and more vascular and everything like that as far as that nature goes. But the weight wise, I mean, even because even all season we've had some pretty good all season as well too. I mean, we've been as high as 295, 305 in all
Hmm.
season.
Good Lord.
But
How
of course,
tall? How tall are you, Joe?
I am 5'10" and a half.
I've
And
ten
I
and a
will
half.
not give them that 5'11" because we're bodybuilding terms. So it's like I'm 5'10" and a half for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I always say that. I don't know why guys try to sound taller because that just
I
makes you
know.
look smaller. Because
Yeah, it's like I mean, if I was playing pro football or something like that, yeah. I mean, I'm 5'10" and a half, then I would say I'm 6'2" or something.
yeah.
But no, this is bodybuilding, so I'm actually 5'10" and a half, and people will second guess me all the time, like, no, you're not, you're 6 foot. I'm like, I'm taking my shoes off the whole time, but yeah, I have to measure. It's 5'10" and a half for sure.
You know, it's funny. You've been to some pro shows. They measure the classic guys at every show.
Oh yeah,
Like they're not getting any taller or shorter, as far as I know. Maybe like a little bit, but
right,
that just boggles
exactly,
my mind. But
right,
I want you to tell your story because people look at the way you look now and see this jacked guy with the monster shoulders, monster
yep,
arms,
right,
280-pound muscular freak. They
right,
think you were always this way.
right.
Uh, but according to one of these videos I was just watching, you were a nerd. You were a bookworm.
Yeah,
You were
right.
actually a skinny kid at one time.
I was just talking about this at the gym yesterday. It's funny, once again, how we're talking about this now, but yeah. So I'll take it back just to elementary school. So in elementary school, um, it was myself, of course. I have an older brother named Bernard, and it was my dad. And let's just say my dad, my older brother, and myself went to the gym. They pretty much thought I was adopted because uh, my dad was a big guy. He never competed or bodybuilder or anything, but big guy, big chest, big arms, big shoulders. Obviously, that's where it kind of runs in the family. My brother was the same way. He literally had muscles at 3 years old. Uh,
Three.
I want to say three, but I would have been one at that time. But I
Wow.
just remember when we were going to the gym, he was already 6-pack abs,
Hmm.
muscular arms, shoulders. So, and it was me. And I'm sitting here with my British nice shoes on and my colorful pants and my whatever tie-dye shirt, and I hated to work out. I absolutely hated it, and all I wanted to do as a kid was play video games and read my books. Back then they had these books called Goosebump books,
Cool,
and
cool. Goosebumps. Was it H.L. Stein?
yeah,
It was
yeah,
an awful Nickelodeon show. Awful.
yeah, that one pretty much, man. I used to ask my mom every time, hey, every time you go to Walmart, will you pick up a Goosebump book? She's like, yeah, I'll pick you one up, of course. And back then it was like, they wanted us to read and, have, book smarts, of course. And we were athletic. We played football the whole night, but of course they were serious, on our grades in school and everything too, of course. So when it came to school and grades, I was awesome, A honor roll, this and that. And, my parents just knew I was going to become a doctor or a lawyer or the whole nine. My uncle is a doctor who lives out here in Dallas. So they're like, oh, Joseph's going to be the next doctor. He's so smart, so intelligent, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But when it came to the gym, man, I would, I knew my brother and dad were going to the gym. I'd go in my room and act like I was asleep, but I didn't want to go. But
So
my
hold
dad,
on. How old were you when your dad? It sounds like your dad dragged you to the gym. How old were you when he started taking you to the gym?
I was, man, I was probably, at least, I was probably 10 to 12 years old for sure.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, 10, 12 years old. Because I know I was still in elementary school for sure. And so my brother, he was, even because we played Pee Wee football as well, too. So even with Pee Wee football, I was a decent athlete. I was actually a good athlete in Pee Wee football. So I was,
Yeah.
I was known as a skinny kid that loved to light people up. I loved to hit. So I definitely wasn't timid when it came to the football field.
Yeah.
But I just didn't like to put the work in at the gym, of course. So, but we would go to the gym. Back then, it was Valley Total Fitness back when they were open.
Yep.
And my dad would drive and my brother would sit in the front seat. I would be in the back seat. And right before we went into the gym, my dad would turn the car off and give us a talk. Actually, give me a talk. And he would say, hey, I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna work out. I want you guys to do, whatever you're gonna do. And then he would turn around and look at me in the back seat and he'd say, Joseph, don't you embarrass me today. And I would say, all right, Dad, I'm not. And what he meant by that is there had been a couple times prior where I was either working out by myself or my brother. And, back then we wanted to, do a couple things heavy. Of course, bench press, dumbbell press, and squat.
Yeah.
And I remember one time my brother was spotting me on the bench press. And I think we had maybe, back then the goal was to do a plate on each side. And I knew I was nowhere near there, but I think I put a 35 on each side. Took the bar off. He was spotting me, and the bar felt just completely on my chest. the weights came tipping off the whole nine. My dad and his friends are over there talking, and then the weights are clashing down on the floor. And basically, he's looking over at me like, basically just shaking his head like, that's my son over there getting stuck with 205 over there. And actually, no, that wasn't 205. What was that? But whatever that weight was. And but
So it
that's
was
what
a 35 on each side?
Yeah, 35 each side, because one player on
115.
each side.
115, yeah. So where
Yeah,
was Bernard? Why wasn't your brother spotting you?
there's no telling. So
Terrible
he
older
probably
brother.
knew what was going to happen. It's like probably looking somewhere else or whatever. But so anyway, I didn't get in trouble for that, but that's what he meant by it, because that stuff like that happened a couple times. Just getting stuck with the weight, and and like I said, I was the weaker one, and my brother was strong, my dad was strong. And I tell people all the time, my dad, he was I remember all the time we would go to the gym, and he would just do chest, and he put a plate on, 2 plates, 3 plates, 4 plates, and I remember he would rep up 4 plates like 10 times, and he would just get up and he would look at me and he would say, "You ever think you're going to be as strong as your dad?" I was like, "No, it's not a chance." And I remember he always had that saying too, but we joke about it now to this day, actually. So it's pretty fun, yeah.
So he didn't really, did he, when you first started going to the gym, you're a kid, did he show you the ropes, say, here, take you around, so this is how to do that, and then you just he let you loose?
He did, because he showed my brother and I the ropes for sure, and because there was a period of time there where we had to work out with him.
Yeah.
He would show us the movements, the correct form, the whole nine. And then after a while, of course, my brother would get in. I understood the movements, but one thing he knew about me is I hated pain. Once it started hurting, I wanted no part of it. So, and that's something my brother and my dad would say to this day. It's like, man, that Joseph, man, when he worked out back in the day, like he hated to be sore, and he hated the pain of the weights or whatever the case is. So I'm not gonna say he lost patience or anything like that, because he definitely is the one that got us in the groove of lifting, working out, taught us about nutrition. Back then they had these mega protein shakes. We used to get them at Albertsons. I think they had like football players on top of it or something like that. But he would always tell us to drink a shake after we worked out, and and that's just me again. Once again, he would tell me to drink a shake. I would make it, and he'd go to the restroom, and I pour it down the sink.
Oh, no.
So I was that guy. Yeah.
I would have had a heart attack if that was my kid.
Oh, man. And he would always scratch his head like, "Man, why aren't you gaining weight?" And my brother would gain weight, and once again, I just hated it. I hated the taste of it, and I was like, "Man, how do you drink this?" And like, I had no desire for it at all. And
Wow, this is crazy, because you're the
yeah,
one that ended up. It's so ironic, but how do you go from that to loving it? Because you must love it. You must have
yeah,
learned to love it at some point.
it is. It's definitely my passion now, and it's like it's what keeps me sane, I would say, for sure. And honestly, it's a big story to it, actually, because I would probably take it to. Actually, I'll take you to another story first before we got to that point of me really loving it. So I was in high school, actually, and when I was in high school, my brother had already graduated. In high school, my brother was known as the big guy. So when he graduated, I wasn't a big guy, but I remember one time I wore this. It was this kind of dry fitted shirt. I think back then it was like one of those shirts like MC Hammer would wear, like this kind of fitted or whatever.
Yeah.
My brother finally convinced me to wear it, so I wore it to school, and I remember it was red, and I wore like a vest on top of it, but my arms were basically showing for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And I remember we were in the hallway, and my buddies came up to me, and they were like, "Man, Joseph, like, look at your arms." And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Your arms are huge." And I was like, "Are they really?" And at that day, people were just coming up to me like, "How'd you get your arms so big? How'd you get your arms so big?" And I was like, "I don't know." So I remember high school, I think my arms were like 17, 18 in high school. And at that point I was like, "Oh man, it's kind of cool, man." And after that day, month after month, I kind of started to like working out, because it was like, this is cool. So, after school I would work out. My dad, that's another thing. My dad had a weight bench in the garage. We had dumbbells. We had a squat rack. So we kind of had the up on, some of the kids as well too, because when we would get home, we would lift weights. And the weights he had, we call them prison weights, because they were like the steel ones, like the concrete ones. They were heavy. So, so it kind of developed there. And then in after high school, I went to college. And when I went to college, I remember having a roommate there, and we basically kind of just pushed each other to a point to where, he wanted to get stronger, I wanted to get stronger, and it just worked. It kind of actually, I went to college. I weighed 190 going to college.
Okay.
I was cut up, had abs, the whole nine, and I remember coming home about I want to say a semester, or if it might have been a year, but I came home probably about a handful of months later, and I was telling the kid this at the gym the other day because he's like, "Hey, do you have any advice for me? I just want to gain weight." I said, "Yes." I said, "I actually do," because when I was in college, I used to work at GNC. So I remember when I worked at GNC, there was this product. I forget what it was called, but I remember it's first when Muscle Milk came out. And when Muscle Milk came out, I remember everybody was talking about it. Like, "Oh man, that's Muscle Milk. It's like Muscle Milk. It's like protein on steroids." I'm like, "Protein on steroids? What?" That's what they were saying back then about Muscle Milk. So I tried Muscle Milk, and I had Muscle Milk, and I bought a ton of creatine because creatine was so cheap.
Yeah.
And I remember the pills, you were supposed to take 3 in the morning, or 3 before and 3 after. So I was thinking, okay, well, that's 3 before, 3 after for the average person. So I'm actually going to do 5 before, 5 after. So I'm going to increase it. And I did that every day. And the advice I gave him was, I didn't have a lot of money in college. And I was actually, I'm someone going to say like a starving college student, because I didn't like to ask my parents for money, or depend on anybody.
Most college students are pretty broke. Yeah.
Exactly, for sure. So, and I remember going to the store, all I would eat is sandwiches, bologna sandwiches, TV dinners, 99 cents TV dinners, pasta, chili dogs. But I would just eat a ton. And the advice that I gave him was eat as much as you can. But the key is every time you go to bed, you should eat a meal. And behind your meal, you need to have a mega protein shake. And my mega protein shake consisted of, back then it was those mass weight gainer protein shakes.
They're like 2,000 calorie shakes.
Yeah, scoop like this big. And
shovel.
So I would do I would do 2 scoops of that. I would put milk in it. I would put 2 bananas in it. I put peanut butter in it. I put honey in it, and I put a little bit of ice cream in there, and I would blend it out behind a meal. And every time I went to bed, my stomach was sticking out. And I said, if you don't go to bed every time at night, and if you don't feel like you have to throw up, then you're not eating enough. Because every night I went to bed, it's like I had to keep getting up, like letting the food digest. I could sleep for a couple minutes, and I have to keep getting up again. But my weight, I went from, it's natural, all natural. So the protein, creatine, I went from 190 to 252 within that period of coming back home. Yeah. And I remember walking in the house, and my family was there. My brother's there, my mom, my dad. And I didn't think nothing of it. I knew I had gained some weight, but I didn't think it was a huge deal. But I remember walking inside, and everyone just looked at me like, what the hell? Like,
what span of time did you put that weight on in?
It was about 7-8 months.
Okay. So they hadn't seen you in that time?
Yeah, they hadn't seen me at all.
Wow. So
yeah.
60. So you put on about over 60 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I can tell you, I wasn't cut up, and I wasn't ready to stuff and say, but it was bulk, because I remember at the time I kept telling myself, I just want to get over 200 pounds. I just want to get over 200. Like, I had been 185, 190 my whole life, the biggest I had ever been. And it's just like, I kept telling myself, like, I don't care if I get fat. I don't care if this or that. I just want to gain weight. I want to get over 200. Then I got over 200. I was like, I want to get over 210. Yeah. And 210, I was like, I want to get 220. And then so on. And then it kind of got to the stopping point, like right around like 248, 250.
So in high school, from the shirt story, it sounds like you were developing, but you really had no idea that you were anything special. Maybe it's because your dad and your brother were muscular, so it just didn't, compared to them. Maybe you didn't think you were anything extra special muscular. But obviously, once these kids in your high school saw your arms, they were flipping out. When did you finally realize, that you had some genetics, that you were different from the average guy in the gym?
Honestly, it's not until college, because I remember the guy I was working out with, his name is Rhino. His real name is Ryan, but we called him Rhino. Yeah. But I didn't notice anything until he started seeing the increase in weight and size. And he just kept asking me, he's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, tell me, like, what are you saying? And I'm like, I'm not doing anything, man. Like, I'm eating, like, I take this creatine, this and that. And he just kept thinking I was doing something extra on top of it. And I was like, I don't know anything about that. And, you know, he just basically told me, he's like, dude, you have some awesome genetics. Like you've gone from, we started working out together. I've only gained 10 pounds and like you've gained 40. And, you know, it's like your strength, like you're benching 4 or 5 for reps now. And it's like your strength's going up. And it's like, I mean, yeah, I mean, at that point, I just, you know, as it was going up and things were increasing, I thought it was just normal. But obviously, you know, he was flipping about it. People in school were flipping out about it because every time they saw me, they're like, man, how, you know, back then it was like, oh, man, how big are you going to get? Yeah. And I was just like, I don't really feel like, you know, like I'm big. But then, yeah, you know, I got up to 240. I'll start thinking like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, I guess, you know, this isn't normal, you know. And then when I came home, that's when it really struck me that that something really big had developed here for sure.
Well, I mean, you came home and you were bulked up at over 250. Were you finally bigger than your dad and your brother already?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And because my dad,
How did Bernard take that?
So both of my brother and my dad are named Bernard because Bernard is my dad. He's a senior and my brother's a junior. But I remember walking in and my brother looking at me and he was happy. He was smiling, but it was almost like, what is going on here? And the story to this, I know it was around like Christmas holiday because my family was there and we were going to my aunt's to eat. And the next day we went to my uncle's house to have Christmas dinner over there. And first time my uncle and aunt had seen me in a handful of months. And they looked at me like, wow, Joseph, like, what did you do? And I'm just like, I went to college, like I was eating and lifting. And they were like, and my uncle, he said, man, you're bigger than your brother now. And I remember looking at my brother and it did not rub him good at all. And I remember he said, I wonder if you could beat him in arm wrestling now. You know, my brother was, you know, like I say, he's a big guy, big arms, big shoulders. And I had big arms and big shoulders too. And I remember my brother saying like, nah, it's no way. He can't beat me. And I was just like, all right, well, let's go. And they were like, all right, well, because my aunt, uncle was there, a couple of my cousins, my mom, my dad. So this was like, in my mind, this was like a big deal because my brother had been, you know, just showing me up in everything my whole childhood.
Right.
So we set up the table and I was like, I'll be back. And I went to the restroom. And I remember going to the restroom and you would have thought I was about to bench press 500 pounds. But I remember giving myself a pep talk. And I was like looking at myself in the mirror and I was like, all right, like you've been waiting your whole life for this. Like, I was like, go in here, show him what's up and take what's yours. And I seriously, man, it was in her bathroom, you know, and I went out there, game face on, you know, you would have probably thought I was about to get in a fight. And serious, no smiling, nothing. Yeah. And we locked arms, locked hands, and, you know, they counted us off, and I took them down.
Wow.
I took them down.
Can I ask, was your brother like a bully to you growing up, like a lot of older brothers are to their younger brothers, or did you guys always get along?
We always got along. You know, it was just a typical little brother, big brother thing as far as like, you know, if, like I said, I love playing video games. So if him and I got in an argument and, you know, and I would say like, leave me alone and tell mom. And he's like, tell mom, like, I'm going to beat you up. And I was like, then I would shut up because he would beat me up. Or, you know, he would do stuff like, you know, we would ride bikes or we come back to the house and if we got an argument, like he knew I love playing video games and he would get mad at me and, you know, turn my video game off. You know, back then we couldn't say video games, so I would get so pissed and try to fight him, but he was so much stronger and bigger, you know, it's just like, there's nothing I can do. So, but no, anytime, I never had any situations of bullying or anything like that when I was in school or anything like that. But if there ever was a situation, like he would be the first one to, you know, have my back and, you know, he didn't let anyone mess with me or anything like that. And I can't even think of a situation where something did happen where he had to step in. So, but yeah, he was definitely, he was just an alpha among us too, for sure. And I just had to take it for sure.
That's okay. So how did you end up doing your first show? Whose idea was it, or how did you find out, or how did it happen?
So, so when I came back home, I didn't finish school. So I came back home and I started working at the gym. And I went to, back then it was 24-hour fitness, and I got hired on as a personal trainer.
Yeah.
So start working out, start working there. I was still living at home with my parents. And when I was working there, there was a group of guys. They were just massive, big. And I was new guy at the gym, and just getting hired on up there. So I remember it's probably four or five of them. And I remember one time the manager came up to me and said, "Hey, those guys over there, like, we're not supposed to have gym bags on the floor. You need to go tell those guys over there they need to put their gym bags up." I was like, "What guys?" And they were like, "Those big guys over there. You need to go tell them." I was like, "Ah, shit, man. Like, all right." So I went over there, I talked to them, and I was like, "Hey guys, like, I'm Joe. I work here. Manager told me, like, you guys aren't supposed to have gym bags on the floor." And they were super cool, man. They were just like, "Hey, what's your name?" I was like, well, actually, I'd already told my name, but they were like, "Hey, like, we have our belts in here and stuff like that. Like, can you go tell your manager, like, this is the way we feel, blah, blah." I said, "Sure, man." I said, "Just for me for today, would you guys mind?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure, Joe. Like, no problem." And after, when they were leaving, they came up to me and they're like, "You're a big guy. Like, what do? You play football or anything like that?" I said, "Yeah, I did it a little bit in college, but, I didn't finish. And I'm here, home now and working here as a trainer." And they're like, "Well, you should come work out with us sometime." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'd love to." And it started there. I remember working out with them. The first workout they did with me was a leg workout. And it was the dumbest, hardest workout I have ever had, because it was one of those old school leg workouts, throwing up, like, supersetting, heavyweight, just balls out, just the whole nine. And I liked it. I mean, the thing that I liked about it was it was hard, but I didn't give up. So I would say the mental part, the mental toughness was actually somewhat there, from the beginning. And as time went on, I remember a guy come up to me. He was like, asking about, regimens and, supplementation, this and that. And I was like, "No, like, nothing." He was like, "Dude, like, what's up?" And I was like, "Okay." And can I talk about as far as it goes?
Talk about whatever you're comfortable talking with.
All right, cool. So he basically showed me the ins and out about a couple of different things. And it's the first time I ever took anything. And he basically told me about Susana and Debo. So he was like, "Just do something out. Let's do this." And I was like, "All right, cool." And I was like 250. So we jumped on that. And about 2 or 3 months later, because I was eating a lot of food and I was training heavy, my weight went from 250 to a little bit over 300 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Woo, that's a nice gain from a first cycle. Good Lord.
Yeah, big time. And I remember back then, like, kids coming up to me in the gym and they were like, "Are you a professional?" And I was like, "Professional what?" And they were like, "Professional bodybuilder."
Yeah.
I was like, "No, man, I've never competed a day in my life. I don't know anything about that." And but like I said, it was a big 300 pounds. Like, if I wore a big shirt, obviously you could tell I looked like a big power lifter, the whole nine. I was strong. My strength was insane. I remember doing back then, I would love the bench press. We loved the shoulder press, dumbbell shoulder press. I remember back then I was doing 495 for 5 to 6 reps, shoulder press. The dumbbells would go up to 160, back then the thing was like, how many times could I rep out 160s for a seated shoulder press? So the strength was there for sure. And I want to say it was me and another guy that were probably the strongest at the gym. And I took a lot of pride in that for sure. And at that point, they were like, "Man, you need to compete. Like, you need to compete." And I was like, "All right, well, let's do it." And back then, when it came to competing, it's kind of similar now, because I remember back then I used my first show was the Lone Star, Prince Harrison's Lone Star show back then. And I got on a nutrition plan, the whole nine, and workout partner kind of helped me with my plan as well too. And I remember that plan to the T still to this day. But it was I hated it. My gosh, man, I hated that damn plan so damn bad. Like
You weren't getting cheat meals, were you?
I got no cheat meal at all. Like I didn't know what a cheat meal was. So, I remember doing the cardio and, and I stayed on this plan and I was strict with it. And I was living home with my parents and my mom would always complain like, oh gosh, you're cooking that beef again, or you're cooking that fish again. How many times are you going to eat that fish?
Tilapia.
Yeah, tilapia. I didn't know anything about cod back then or nothing else. It was tilapia, dry chicken, and dry beef, and that's it. So, so I did the show. Placed. What did I place? I placed third. Yeah, I placed third place. And I just remember after the show, I was like, no more. That's it. This was the worst experience of my life. I never want to ever compete again. And I did it one time, and that's all I need. So I'm good to go now. And I did it. And it was like a handful of years before I ever stepped on stage again.
Wow. Yeah, because I say most people have that. It's one or the other. Either you do a show and you're like, oh my God, that was awesome. When's the next show? Or it's like, that was interesting, but I'm good. I'm all set.
No, and I was even talking about this other. I remember whatever year this was, but I remember the Europa was here in Dallas and the Open competitors were here. And I remember going to a competition with my buddy, and I remember a guy walked by, and my buddy was like, hey, you see that guy right there? I was like, yeah. He said, watch, he's going to win this whole show. And he had on the jumpsuit. And I was like, that guy, he looks skinny. He looks small. There's no way. And he's like, just wait till he takes his shirt off and takes his jacket off.
Yeah.
And he won the whole show. And it was Chris Cook. And
okay.
Yeah, I remember seeing him, and I was like, super blown away by his physique. And I was just like, wow, like, man, now I can never imagine being that damn big. But but it's just crazy. Like I said, how time flies. So
you're bigger now than he was, but well, so yeah, what brought you back to competing after all that?
So that's where the that's I mean a handful of people kind of know the story, but I was in a relationship, and the woman I was in a relationship with, we had a child, and the day after he was born, we found out he was born with a heart issue. He was born with a hypoplastic left heart syndrome. So one day after he was born, he had to have open heart surgery, and he did well. And then he had to have another one at 3 months. So it's a three-stage open heart procedure. You have to have one when you're first born, another one at 3 months, then another one at 3 years. So it's just it's not common for kids to have it, but it's not uncommon for doctors to see for a child to have hypoplastic left heart syndrome. So he did good after his second surgery. Super smart, super intelligent, very handsome boy. His name was Devin. And about 6-7 months into it, he started having some complications. I'm not sure kind of where it started, but took him to the hospital probably around like 7.5, 8 months, and it was just back to back, and it just got worse and worse and worse. I remember we had to see if he was a candidate for a heart transplant. Then I remember getting the news that they weren't going to qualify him for a heart transplant. And I remember the doctors coming up, and I had always been very optimistic, very positive. He's going to be fine. There's no way. Like, everything's going to be great. Like, he's too intelligent. Like, he looks healthy, this and that. But it took a turn for the worse. And at 10 months, he passed away. So,
man, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So after that happened, it was, fast forward to a few more months down the road, it was just a lot of, I don't feel like anyone is prepared to handle, death, especially, when it comes to whether it's your mom, your dad, your brother, but especially your child, of course.
Yeah.
So I basically decided, I started lifting weights, and I was already, like I said, a big guy at the time. And I felt like I just needed to use it. And I felt like just working out wasn't really getting it. So I wanted to apply it. So I remember going up to my trainer at the time. He was my first trainer ever. His name was Herman over at Stroud's Fitness.
Yeah. And
told him where my mom was at, told him what was going on. And he knew how to push me. Because, anytime I got tired or anytime I got, I'm not gonna say stress, but when it came to those sets of failure, whatever the case is, all they had to mention was, his name, or think of this or think of that, and it was probably, yeah. I mean, I've never trained like that ever, for sure. But we prepped. That's when we prepped for our show together. We did the Ronnie Coleman, and I kept asking, like, hey, do I do a novice or do I do open? He's like, no, we're gonna do it right. The right way to do it back then was you need to do novice, prove yourself.
Yeah.
And then another show we'll do open, which is why we did the Ronnie Coleman as novice. We won that show. Then we did the Texas State, and I won that as an open, but I didn't get it overall. So that's where it kind of started. And I won the Ronnie Coleman show. I remember after I won that show, a lot of, handful of good things coming. I remember I picked my first sponsor up. That's when Damatas picked me up. I remember I was with a magazine. It's a magazine called Crate Fitness. It's kind of local out here. So they reached out to me about wanting to do some magazine shoots and stuff like that. So went with that. And what else? But it was just I remember doing an interview with I think that's back when Aaron Singerman was actually with I think he was with Ari Smosa back then.
He was.
Yeah. So I remember doing an interview with him, and he had told me that I was one of the most impressive novice guys he had seen win a show ever, and I was like, wow, man, like, thank you. So
I think we shot a video with you on muscular development because
we sure did. We did
Google
a
it.
handful of videos. Exactly.
On there,
yeah, we sure did. Because I was like, when you and I, talked the other day, I was like, this is just this is cool to me, because my dad, back to us being a child, he basically put Muscular Development magazines in front of us.
Oh, wow.
as children.
What a great dad.
Yeah. I still have probably 40 Muscular Development magazines in my drawer over here from back in the day too. So it's like, and I remember looking at those guys, even as a child, and just thinking like, man, like, I'll never be here. It's like insane.
Let me ask you, you're in the Dallas area. You must have looked up to Ronnie Coleman. I mean, he's a hero to the world, but I can imagine being a bodybuilder in Dallas.
Yep.
That must have been crazy being in Dallas. And did you ever try to meet him? Did you ever go over to Metroflex or anything?
No, I don't know. You can ask me that question now, and I don't know why I didn't, but I never tried to see Ronnie, and I wish I would have. If I could rewind time, I definitely wish I would have tried to sneak over there to Metroplex and seen him in his prime, because that would have been amazing. But I know as I was when I came home for college, I always used to go over to Strauss, because I always used to try to see Johnny Jackson and Branch over there, because I knew they worked out over there on the weekend, but I never could get them. And but I did try to get them a couple times, and I've actually told Branch and Johnny this story too, but because I work out with them sometimes as well too. So awesome guys. And I told him, like, hey, when I was younger, man, I used to try to catch you guys all the time, and I never could get you. So so even, like I said, training with those guys, sometimes it's still kind of surreal, for sure.
So let's fast forward. You turned pro at the 2016 Nationals. So when you turn pro, I like to ask this question because it's a whole new world. It's like you're graduating from high school to college now or something.
Yep.
What was going through your head after you won nationals? Like, where do I go from here? What do I do? What was your game plan?
So I turned pro, and back at that time I was working with Chris Aceto, and we did that show and we turned pro. And after that, it was basically one of those things to where I felt like I needed to grow more, take some time, put some size on, mature a little bit. And we didn't. I knew I didn't want to jump into a pro show like immediately. Like some of the great guys have done, like Flex and Phil and these guys. So I felt like I just needed more time to bring some things up. Muscle maturity. Get harder, get tighter, get just everything. So I felt like a year would kind of do us justice. And I remember Chris, at the time, him and us talking about it, and we decided to do that. And that's when we kind of had like a really good off season. Like I said, it was nothing new for my body to get up to 300, 310, and that's kind of where we stayed with all season. And then that's when we did our first show together, was the Ferrigno Classic. And I remember doing that show, and I felt like we brought a good package to that show. And I can tell you the difference just because the inconsistency of my pro career has been kind of here, there, and stuff like that. And I could definitely go into detail about that for sure. But it's going into this show, it's definitely the best prep we've had. And like I said, working with Dom now, Chris was an awesome guy. So working with Dom now, and it's this is definitely by far like probably the most anticipated show for me personally, going into this show, just because of the night and day difference and a lot of things that I can tell from back then to where we are now for sure.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at that footage from the Ferrigno not long before we started talking. You were in really good shape for that show, really good condition.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I'm just wondering, if you can briefly tell me, why haven't you competed more as a pro?
I've always said when I prep for a show, that those 20 weeks or whatever, it's all going to be those 20 weeks, and nothing else matters throughout those 20 weeks that we're prepping.
Yeah.
So whenever I would prep for those 20 weeks, no doubt about it, a lot of people know, of course, this can be a selfish sport. So after the show, the way I saw it at that time was, okay, I've been selfish for 20 weeks. Now I need to be unselfish and think about, some loved ones and this and that, and, life and outside of bodybuilding and this and that. So I would basically at that time, think of it as, okay, now it's time for me to, give back and hang out with, family and loved ones and stuff like that. So that's why I kind of at that point was only doing like one show a year. And I remember actually after the Freakno, Chris and I discussed it to do the Indy. I didn't feel like doing the Indy was necessarily like a great idea. I'm not gonna say my body was tired. I knew I was a little bit tired as far as it goes, but also believed in him and I working together, and it's just one of those things. It's you kind of know your body as well too. Yeah. So even throughout the training and stuff, because the way, and I'm not saying anyone that doesn't train like this or anything like that, but I'm kind of old school when it comes to training. It's like I love heavy weight. I love going all out every single workout. And it's like doing 20 weeks of that. Of course, I have no regrets of doing it at all. And then after a show, as you know, you got to turn that switch back on and say, okay, all right, well, any pros 12 weeks from now, all right, give everybody 12 more weeks suffering, let's go. And so it's one of those things to where sometimes I feel like the body can go against you at times, and I kind of felt like that was one of those situations to where it kind of went against me, and I probably should have held off of not doing that one instead of doing it. But that's the only way you kind of learn your body too.
I want to talk about your business, because a lot of bodybuilders are in related businesses, like they might own a gym or nutrition store or a personal training company. You're the co-owner of Innate Imaging. Mm-hmm. It's a company that does MRI and CT scans. Right. Is a CT scan the same as a CAT scan?
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. I've been saying CAT, and like, where's the damn A? Why is there no A there?
Right, for sure.
So I've been doing that my whole life, CAT scan.
Yeah.
So how long have you been co-owner of this company? How did you get involved in that? Because that's a totally different world from us.
Absolutely. So I've been a co-owner now for going on 2 years now. I actually started in the business actually through a good friend of mine. I actually started in the medical/pharmaceutical business by doing pharmaceutical sales. And with doing that, I was and the medical business it's really all about networking, of course, because even in pharmaceutical, it's one of those things to where, if you have a pharmacy or if you have these products or whatever the case is, but you have all these different facilities out there and all these doctors out there. But the way you basically build your business is networking. And on top of that, it's pretty much networking with, people that, will trust you and that you trust as well too, because any rep can go to a facility and say, hey, we offer this, we offer this, we offer that, but at the end of the day, it really has to come down to, you and the doctor, of course, having a good, relationship/friendship. And some of my first accounts were actually past clientele, because I used to, prior to being in the pharmaceutical medical side, I was personal training, and a
Mm.
couple of my clients were medical doctors that own their own practice.
Yeah.
So picking up accounts was kind of came natural because I was able to add them on into as an account. And then, like I said, with in this industry, when it comes to the medical side, it's a lot about networking. So usually when you add 2 doctors on or 3 doctors, those 3 doctors know 3 other doctors, then those 3 doctors know 3 other doctors. And then, when you're just a good guy that does good business, that's what, in any industry, of course, too, anybody wants is, to be treated fairly, of course, be treated right, and, work with someone hand in hand that's going to be doing good business. So pharmaceutical did well to where I was able to, when the opportunity came around with my business partner that's now presented itself pretty much to where we were able to invest into the imaging side of the business to where we are now. So we're in Plano right now. It's innate imaging. We actually do MRIs, CT scans. We do pain management. So we're actually 2 businesses, one, because we have innate imaging there. We also have our other business inside of it, as well as Texas Pain Network. That's where we do the pain management as well too. So, and when it comes to pain management, that could be anywhere from, cortisone shots, all the way from, surgeries, the whole nine, or whatever the case is. But we take care of just about everything, when it comes to anyone that's having a problem, from a minor to major injury or type of pain or anything.
So do you get like 20 MRIs a year, you personally, or no?
No, no.
Yeah, that hurts. I want to
It's
check that out
funny.
and see what that is.
It's funny you say that, actually, because I remember being, you know, being an owner of a facility, and I knew my knee was messing up for the longest, but I refused to get an MRI on my knee just because of the fact I did not want to know what was going on with it. I think a lot of people are like that for sure.
Oh, dude.
So
Men are like that. They don't like the doctors. Like, I don't want to know. I'd rather
no,
not.
exactly. And I remember I finally did it, and it was just wear and tear. It was nothing, no torn ligaments, no strains or anything like that. It was just basically just a little bit of fluid and just some wear and tear. And but we do that as well too. Like, we actually did a stem cell therapy on it, and that made a huge difference as well too. So so that's just yeah. I try to, but I am one of those guys too. If something's wrong, I'm the first one to check it out, and that's another thing we do, of course, too. Which that's another thing I try to mentors as well too, because if I have someone come up to me and say, hey, like, I want to compete, I want to do this, whether it's a guy or girl, whatever the case is, the first question I ask them is like, blood work. When's the last time you had blood work done? Because we do that as well too. So
Oh,
we
wow.
do complete men's and women's blood panels as well too. So that is the number one thing I tell everyone to start off with, because we can look great outside of our body, but if we don't know what's going on internally, then we can't really throw this, that, or whatever at it. Not even nutrition. We have vitamin deficiencies, nutrition deficiencies, hormones. Of course, with men and women, you can eat the cleanest diet in the world, but if a man's or women's hormone is off, then it doesn't really matter, what we're eating, because things are so off. So
Mm.
I always tell everyone that we have to be able to see what's going on internally before we can start working on anything. And when it comes to the workouts and nutrition, for sure. So I try to mentor as much as I can.
Cool. Now you have a hobby that a lot of men are fascinated with: fast cars.
Fast
On your
cars.
Instagram, a lot of your Instagram posts are from car dealerships or something. So, yeah, have you been
Right.
into cars your whole life? Do you collect them? Are you
Yeah.
always plotting your next car?
Yeah. I put a post up the other day, actually, with a couple cars I just purchased. But I remember in college, I had a green Mustang. It was a 4-cylinder.
Hmm.
And but I did everything I could to that little 4-cylinder. I remember I put glass pipes on it. Glass packs is what it was called back then.
That was the
It was,
LX, the Mustang
oh yeah,
LX, not the
yeah.
GT.
It was it
I
was
had the LX.
it was so loud, but it was so obnoxious, I'm sure, to people. Because when I hear it now with these cars on the freeway, they're just so loud and obnoxious. I'm just thinking like, well, I used to be that kid in college for sure, because I used to speed that thing up and down the freeway thinking I really had something.
Yeah.
But I've always been into cars for sure, because even back then I knew I had a 4-cylinder Mustang, but I wanted it to be a 5.0, and I kept, I wish I would have had the money to put a 302 in it, which is the motor that actually goes in those cars.
Right.
But I never got around to it, never could afford it. And anytime I've ever had a car, because I remember after that, it was like I was a trainer at a gym, and I remember a client started with me. And he paid about $4,000 to start. I think he bought like a 6-month package or something like that. And then I was able to, like, you know, back then, you know, giving $4,000 a lot of money. Like, oh man, like now I'm rich. Like I can go buy a car. And I remember I went to one of those tote to note places and I bought a Grand Am at that time.
Pontiac.
Yep. Yeah, Pontiac Grand Am. Yep. And it was a good looking car to me. And I remember I had to do the wheels, had to do the system, had to do the tent, the whole nine. And then it kind of scaled up from there. And then my first fast car was actually a 98 Cobra. I remember buying that car.
Oh, wow.
And I put some money into that car. And I remember putting nitrous on that car. I remember doing every bolt on I could to it, you know, headers, exhaust, intake. But I blew the motor up in that car like twice, just from the nitrous and stuff like that. So yeah, it's so after that, you know, kind of took a break, and I've had a lot of cars. I've always just been a car person, whether it's classy or whether it's fast. The fastest car I've owned yet to this day is the Corvette I had. I sold it probably about a year ago, but I bought it as a C6 Z06, and I remember buying it, and I was like, man, I'm just going to keep this car stock. I'm going to just leave it alone. I just want to drive it. You know, I don't want to go crazy with it. And then about a month later, I'm building this big giant motor for it. So, so it started off as a 427. I built a LSX 441 for it, and we put that in there and made it like 600 on NA, naturally aspirated. I was just gonna put nitrous on it, you know, make about 700-800 horsepower, but we ended up doing a Pro Charger, so we did pretty much a big blower on there, and we did a blower. We swapped out the training, we swapped out the spiral system, had to put drag wheels on it because it wouldn't hook, and it made about 1,300 horsepower. So,
whew, good Lord! Did you ever take it to a track or anything and really top it out?
No, we never did a track. I just enjoyed having fun with it on the street, and just honestly, just back then we would do some crazy things on the streets, you know, late at night, and a group of us, you know, with some fast cars and stuff like that, and
Fast and the Furious.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it was like highway pulls, and you know, it was nothing for us to do. Like, you know, we always, anytime we had a meet, you know, or we would get called out. You know, it was like, okay, well, what race do you want? And it was like, okay, let's go 60 to 190. And it's like, okay, well, 60 to 190 it is. And, you know, yeah. But
what's the fastest you think you've ever driven ever?
Miles per hour wise?
Yeah.
I would probably say 180-ish, 183, 184.
That's very fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the reason why I got, because I felt like something bad was going to happen in that car. It was very sketchy, and it was one of those things to where I had a lot of close calls in that car for sure. I remember spinning out, the tires breaking loose on me at around 140.
You hit it like a pothole at 180. My goodness, what would happen?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like anything could happen, and I was just like, you know, I definitely had a lot of close calls in that car. The grace of God, for sure, is probably the reason I'm only still here. I don't see how I've made it out in some situations already, for sure.
So looks like you've got some crazy souped up Benz and some crazy souped up Cadillac now. Am I right?
Yeah. So the story to actually, with all the COVID stuff that happened, so I live in a good area now, but I remember I had an Escalade. It was decked out nice, had a Lord, had wheels on it, the whole 9 system. But I was at 24 Fitness right up the street, and I came outside and I noticed that my handle was off my door. And basically, I took it to the dealership next day. They had tried to steal my Escalade. So about a month ago, I was here at home, and it was on a Saturday afternoon. I had just got back from the store, came back in, put the groceries up. I was going back out there probably about an hour later to head out, go to my parents' house, and my Escalade was gone. It was gone. I was like, you know, I tell everybody it's almost like that movie, like, dude, where's my car? And it's like, I was like, dude, where's my car?
It's awful.
So, and I just laughed because I was like, they got it. Like, I knew they got it because it was just had that feeling. So, and I told her, I said, I had no desire to go buy another car this year, you know, especially with everything going on. And this lockdown stuff and this and that. So, but it was one of those things too, to where, when a bad thing happens, it's like, I always say this even when I'm working out, or, because things happen in life, my life, everyone's life. And, yeah, no doubt about it. When it happened, I was pissed off. I probably was, got a little stressed out a little bit, but it's just one of those things where it's like, you know what, like, I'm not gonna let this break me, And I remember one of my buddies calling me, and he's like, hey, like, are you good? And I was like, yeah. He said, hey, like, shake it off, man. Like, you've had way worse things happen than this. Like, come on, shake it off. I was like, you're right. And so I looked for a car, so I bought a new Mercedes. And same thing with that. I was like, just gonna leave it alone, leave it stock, just drive a normal car. It's cool, it's nice as it is.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen, of course.
None of you car people can leave a car stock. I figured that out.
No, we laugh about it all the time. It's a group of us, and it's like, anytime a buddy of mine tells me that, then I'm just like, I'll just give him that look, and he'll just start laughing, because I honestly mean it when I say it, but it just never happens. I don't know why. So, and the crazy, yeah, I remember before I bought the Mercedes, I actually wanted a CTSV, and the numbers at the time I was looking at CTSV, the guy at the dealership just wasn't playing ball. So I ended up buying the Mercedes, and like I said, I like fast cars, but even with the Mercedes, I remember 2 days after I bought it, I took it to a performance shop down here in Dallas, and they put a tune on it and put some parts on it for me. So it's actually a upgraded. It's a twin turbo Mercedes that actually will fly and embarrass, actually surprise some people. So it's a big car, but it makes some power. But I just still had that itch of, I love American Muscle. And, I knew I kind of either wanted like a vet or a CTSV. So, start looking at some CTSVs, and pulled the trigger on the CTSV that I recently just got here recently.
That's a Cadillac?
Yes, Cadillac CTSV. It's so it's basically it's just as the same motor as a Z06 in it, or the C7Z in it. So it's a supercharged LT1. But it makes decent power stock. It makes about 630 stock. And when I'm done with it, it'll probably make about a 900 to 1,000. So
630 horsepower is not enough. That's not enough.
No, by far at all. Yeah.
The average person gets behind the wheel of something like 400, and they're like, wow, I can't imagine anything more powerful than this engine.
Yeah, no, it's like, I'm bad, man. I'll get a car, and I'll start looking at YouTube and looking at, videos of what I can do and the potential. And so, I'll my buddies will call me and be like, hey, like, what are you going to do to this car? What are you going to do? And I'm like, and I'll be honest with you. Like, yeah, I want the car to make 900 to 1,000 horsepower for sure.
So money's no object. What supercar is the one that you really want?
The supercar I really want, but I don't know, we would have to do some modifications for me to fit in it. Is actually because my buddy owns they have a couple of them, but I really want a black on black twin turbo. Actually, they don't come twin turbo, but I want a black on black Dodge ACR Viper. And they're just sexy cars to me, and I know what I would do to that to make those cars fast. It is super expensive. I'm talking about, they come stock with 600 horsepower, I'm sure, but I'd want to do a twin turbo package and have 1,700 horsepower, and you're looking at about, upgrades somewhere well over 150,000 for that. But it's just one of those things where it's that's not about to happen right now. But
you couldn't fit in one of those cars. Come on, Joe.
I don't know. It's a video
every super fast. Every time I've ever looked at like a Lamborghini or Bugatti I've never driven one, but I look at the seat. I'm like, I'd be uncomfortable, and I'm like 225. I can imagine some of these big dudes would be like, ugh, like Mr. Incredible behind the wheel.
Yeah, one of the builders that lives in Austin, he's convinced me that we can make it happen. He said we'd have to do some different fitment to the seats and the door as well, some modifications maybe to the steering wheel or something. But he's convinced me that we can make it happen for sure. So I'm convinced too. So we'll see.
Let's get back to bodybuilding. What made you decide it's time to compete again? Because you haven't competed since last May 2019.
Right.
What made you decide this is it? I'm ready. I want to get back up there.
So I usually get that itch every single year. I can't tell you like what it it really is or when it will happen or whatever the case is, but it's never felt me to where that itch hasn't came around every single time. And you know, since last time I competed, you know, I know every show that I do, you know, even, you know, consider like I said, the last show didn't, you know, we didn't do so well as far as it goes, but you know, take some time off, relax a little bit. I'm just one of those guys that just can't stay still. And my parents know that about me. You know, a handful of people know that about me. So I'm either involved in something. You know, I just have to just. It's like a kid that's just with some candy or something. It's like I got to keep moving. So definitely the itch came around for sure, and it's not it's always there. It's always like that light bulb is always on, but it just gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And you know, if you're around me, you know, enough that you kind of know that it's about to happen. Something's about to, you know, kick in. And I remember when it does happen, you know, I have a couple of guys I work out with, you know, I'll just text them and I'll just text them 2 words. I'll say it's Tom, and they're like, all right, let's go.
So did you plan on an earlier show that got
I did.
postponed?
Yeah, New York. So New York Pro. So New York Pro was the goal. We were prepping for that show. You know, obviously things were looking good. It got postponed once, and then we still stayed on track for that show. Then it got postponed again, and then we were just everything was just up in the air. So, you know, I think we waited a couple weeks, and you know, things kind of went down and up, just with everything going on, and not really being certain about, you know, if we're going to have any shows. And you know, because I saw what happened with Arnold. Matter of fact, I was watching you with the whole Arnold situation.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And yeah, and I was just like, well, you know, we just had to be on standby, and you know, things kind of started looking forward. But I'll be the first to tell you, like it was somewhat, you know, it's still somewhat discouraging for sure, because it's like, you know, when your foot's on the gas. I remember the first time New York got rescheduled, I was just like, well, that sucks. You know, then it got rescheduled again. Then it was just like, man, like what the hell, man? Like, how do we, you know, me personally, I was just thinking like, how do I keep this foot on the gas? You know, considering every time we put the foot on the gas, it's like, you know, we got to go back in neutral, you know, and it's just like, so what's going on? So, so Tampa was looking for sure, very reassuring as far as it goes. So, you know, I reached out to Dom and said, hey, like, what do you think about Tampa? He said, dude, like, of course, let's do it. Like, we're right there. So, and we put the foot back on the gas, and that's funny even with that one, because I remember even prior to us putting I would say the intensity, foot back on the gas, prior to doing that, we were probably like 14 weeks out from Tampa, but my weight at that point was like 259, 260.
Wow.
And, you know, but that's me, you know, missing a couple meals, you know, missing a couple workouts throughout the week. And, you know, just things were just kind of inconsistent, especially considering the fact couldn't get to the gym every single day. And, you know, things were just kind of up in the air. But once we did it, then it's like, you know, found a way to get everything done. And, you know, the progress just goes up and up and up every day, every week.
Did you have a gym available to you this whole time?
I did, yeah.
Oh,
I had 2 different options for sure.
nice.
Yeah. So I was either, the only thing I was missing was I was only able to have access to one or the other gym, and I was only able to get up there one time a day, so I couldn't go up there and do fasted cardio, then come back and then eat and then go work out like I normally do now. So that's the only bad thing about it. Yeah.
Everything's open. Is Texas, all the gyms are open now?
Everything's open now, so we're wide open now. So everything's back on routine. I remember when the lockdown was going on, like, you know, because I was just very I was just being very optimistic about everything, because I didn't believe a lot of this stuff was going to happen or take place. And I remember people saying stock up on this, stock up on that. And I'm like, gosh, you guys are crazy. I was stupid. Like, and I remember going to the store, and it's like going over to my chicken aisle or my beef aisle, and there was like no chicken, no beef. And I remember one time I had to buy a fucking roast one time. I'm just like, I don't even know how to cook a roast. Like, but it's like all I could get, you know. And I went from eating chicken breast to chicken wings on a bone. You know,
they never ran out of canned ham. There was always plenty of canned ham. Nobody wanted that crap.
Yeah, and it's just like, man, I couldn't find anything, and it was just like it was super upsetting for sure. So, but Hey, I mean, I got to eat a little bit, so got to eat some some chicken wings in the air fryer. Pretty good there.
Well, I'm psyched you're doing Tampa. I'm psyched that there is going to be a Tampa show.
Yep.
You know, it's been so long. We missed, geez, 3 to 6. By the time we get to Tampa, it's going to be like 5 months of no
Yep.
shows for open bodybuilders.
Yep.
And we only had the Arnold. There was nothing after that. Everything got canceled. So
Right.
I'm curious to see what Tampa is going to be like. It's either going to be a huge show with a ton of pros, or
Yep.
maybe not. But
Right.
we don't know. But we know you're in it. We know Hunter's in the
Right.
open. I just talked to Ian Valier last week.
Yeah.
I want it to be a nice, strong lineup.
Oh
I
yeah.
want this to be the big comeback show where pro bodybuilding, you know, we're coming back strong after this ridiculous quarantine and virus situation.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a big show from what I see, what I was saying, and it's exciting. I mean, because I see, every week it's like, oh, this guy's doing a show, and it's I'm at that point now to where it's exciting to see those things. Back when I first turned pro, if this guy jumped in or that guy jumped in, and it's like, oh shit, man, like this guy's doing it. But now it's just like, it's like I was telling, I was talking to Nick the other day or a few weeks ago, but I've been watching a lot of Dorian Yates videos lately, when I do my cardio, because it's always someone I watch prior to a prep. It's either Dorian, Phil, or Kevin Roney or Ronnie. But
Yeah.
I've just been watching a lot of his videos. I remember one of the things he said is like, when he was competing against, when he was first coming up, he felt good. He was getting better every year. And basically just asked himself, like, like, why not? Like, why can't it be me? You know what I mean? And it's
Right.
like, if I do this, if I bring this, if I bring that, I know the things I need to do. I know the things I need to work on, and I'm applying them now, and that's why I'm excited about it because, I see it happening. I see it developing, and I'll be the first ones to tell you the things that I should have done better, at my previous shows. And that's what's the exciting thing about it going into this show is that we're already, impacting on it now, and doing these things now. So to prepare ourselves for this show. So I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Well, man, I've taken up a lot of your time, Joe. Appreciate it very much. We got 7 weeks still, Tampa now. 7 weeks
Now
from Tampa.
we're 6 and some days right now.
Oh, it's coming up, man. Time's
Yeah,
going.
yeah,
Okay.
we're 6
Okay.
some days. You gonna make it down there?
Oh, absolutely.
That's awesome, man.
Have you been to the Tampa show before?
I have not. It's first time competing at Tampa for
You're
sure.
gonna enjoy it. Tim Gardner and his crew, they top notch. They really they give the athletes a good experience. The crowd, everyone, it's a feel good experience. I don't know how else to say it. It's
Awesome.
you walk out that weekend very happy that you went there, whether you're
Awesome. I'm looking forward to
competing
it for
or
sure.
whatever. Yeah.
Right, for
So
sure.
looking forward to seeing your improvements. Like I said, I've been watching your social media, watching your training videos on Gasp Official. You're definitely better than you were ever before, which is the name of the game, right? So
Absolutely.
excited to see what you can do, Joe. Very excited.
I'm looking forward to it for sure. I'm looking forward to presenting it.
Cool. Well, everybody, thanks for watching. Joe, thank you for the time. And you're going to see this man on stage at the Tampa Pro. That's going to be July 31st and August 1st, Tampa, Florida. Tim Gardner Productions. Can't wait. We're going to cover that for MD, and certainly going to bother you at the show for an interview, of
Let's
course.
do it
That's
for
what I
sure.
do.
All
So,
right.
man, that's it. Thanks, and
All
have the great rest of the prep. I'll be watching, and can't wait to see what you got for us.
right. Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you for your time for sure.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Ron.